Hey y'all, welcome back. So yeah, it's like we live in a freaking bubble right now. So many messages are trying to come through because we are in an active war. Okay, so the war is coming in through Elon, Mark Zuckerberg. They're the big techies involved, Bill Gates. So here's kind of like how I understand it. So Bill Gates, he governs the voice bots, okay? So the voice bots are connected to Google, and it essentially is connected to our voices right now, okay? So they have the alien technology now that we can verbally say something out loud. We do not need to be near a device or anything, and it can essentially travel out and people can hear what you're saying. If you mention a certain name and they are in a secret society, they can hear you talking about them and they can come in with their legal teams. Okay, so this is part of the Nazi regime. Now, I have gotten messages that Mark Zuckerberg, he has his own paramilitary along with many of these billionaires. And they weaponize this paramilitary against their victims, which is completely illegal and criminal because they're using military-grade weapons on civilians who are unarmed, okay? And this is part of the technology AI warfare that is intended to own and destroy the world. And right now, we have to just wake up to how they're doing this. So Mark Zuckerberg definitely has access to some advanced science, okay, where he can literally manipulate time and space within minutes. He has a techie or different teams that he does work with, okay, to figure this out. I have, unfortunately, have had to have many encounters with him through his own stupid verse, and I have to combat him with different energies. And it's been an ongoing battle between me and Mark Zuckerberg, okay? And his goal was to write me out of the universe. And he was under some type of contracts, I'm hearing with Crazy Kimmy over in North Korea, to essentially remove me from my role or my rank. Now, I believe that many people within these secret societies knew my rank was presidential, okay? I feel very strongly that many of them biologically hacked me knowing that I was of a certain rank, okay, within the U.S. military. I believe that Tom Cruise knew I was a presidential rank. I believe that Mark Zuckerberg knew I was a presidential rank. I believe Donald Trump knew I was a presidential rank. I believe Lieutenant General Thomas Bergeson knew I was a presidential rank. I believe he knew probably, he might have been one of the first generals to know who I was, okay? Because when it came to me essentially being on the front lines, working on a military operation, which I thought was working for my own country, only to find my own military, General Milley. I saw General Milley, another general who I can't figure out who he is. I have his face. I know his face so well. If I could find this guy, I could point him out of a lineup in 2 seconds. I don't know this person's name, but he is like the main cat connected to General Milley, who is heading up the Russian coalition between Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Sergei Lavrov, and Crazy Kimmy, okay? North Korea. I saw them in the barracks, okay? I don't know if this was in our own Pentagon or not. Now, I've never been in the freaking Pentagon, so I might be like, oh, I can walk through. But I can say that I'm really good at knowing where I am, okay, within the metaverse. I have an idea of where I am. So I don't know if it is just intuitively, psychically, I know when I'm in the Pentagon, I have an idea. I have a knowingness about it, okay? Now, this specific location where they are feels like it's a hideaway location where they're operating a back military or a dark military operation that they're in secret about. General Milley was the general at this time. So it doesn't make sense to me that he would be in a hideaway location if he was operating above board. He should, from what I would understand, be in some type of a military base or he is within the Pentagon, in a location within the Pentagon. However, I can say that the facility he was operating in feels a little bare bones, okay? It feels like not what you would typically see. So that's what makes me think he might have been doing another operation, a back operation, that perhaps other military did not have intel on, because it's just literally, it's him and like 2 other people that I have seen next to him. And they all have their uniforms on. They all have their coats. I've seen the military uniforms that they're wearing. I can identify what they're wearing. I can identify what it looks like. I know that I saw them with several monitors. But I can confidently say when I did discover what they were doing in this location, somewhere in the barracks, somewhere, I don't know, that's what they're saying, the barracks, or at this location, they looked like they had seen a freaking ghost. When I came through, I was a storm, okay? I came in as a freaking storm. I was wrecking and breaking their systems. I was destroying their systems. I was a storm. Look, see? Tower reversed. Just came in. I was a freaking tower, okay? It was like their whole world just went, like crumbled. And they did not know who I was. I can tell you confidently that with this interaction, through the metaverse, through the military portals, through whatever this intel, I guess, headset was, technology was that they did not know who I was. To them, I was probably committing crimes, okay? I would say in their mind's eyes, I was out of line or not acting in a way that I should. I was like an imposter. I would be coming in from a different place. However, I can say within 24 hours of that interaction, General Milley had a press conference and he changed his tune literally overnight to fully supporting Ukraine, okay? Fully supporting Ukraine and calling that in. So that was within 24 hours of the interaction of the storm of Amy that came through, destroying their systems and outing their entire operation, okay? So, and he looked like he kind of saw a ghost at that press conference as well. He looked uncomfortable. So this was under the Biden administration. Now, I can say after those interactions, they wanted to know who I was. But that specific group did not know who I was. So they did not know that I was a presidential rank. I don't believe they had that intel. But the other people that I was around, I believe did. I believe General Mike Flynn had the intel. I believe Eric Prince had the intel. So these are people who would be intentionally blocking me from being honoring my rank, especially at a time when we are under full-blown attack through foreign infiltration, through black operations directly connected to Donald Trump, overthrowing our own military, our own Navy, connected to his business partners, or his owners, United Emirates, the Saudis, China is coming in around that, and Russia, the Russians, and Israel. So I guess there is some misunderstandings around my rank and who I was. I don't believe that Joe Biden knew my rank until after he was inaugurated. Is that the correct term? Until after his inauguration, okay? And I had interactions with him through the metaverse. So that leads me to believe that I may have even been at a higher presidential rank around 2021. But there's confusion because I have been told that I was working actively for the feds, okay, prior to this time. But I think because of the feds and their infiltration, it's divided. So what I'm learning right now is that because of the infiltration of Donald Trump and his cabinet and anyone he appointed to any of these agencies to be head of any type of intel, there's a divide now. So there's Donald Trump's intel that he appointed, and then there's the intel prior to that administration. So it's almost like we are operating or have been operating within these agencies as, I'm hearing, opposing teams. And this is the intel that has not made it out to the media or the news. So I, for example, could have been privy to intel or receiving intel that needed to get out to the right people as a form of a chain in command, okay, to get the intel out because I had the YouTube channel and be working for one of the original teams, okay, of the FBI to get the intel out because we're actively in a war, okay, we're actively under attack. Our intel is under attack because we have another group who was appointed in that's following out different agendas or commands, okay? And I was getting very strongly that the command for the FBI was Rod Rosenstein. And so he was acting as command for the FBI now for, well, that's like almost the entire term. It's like 8 years, okay? So he is appointed by Donald Trump. That's how he got that role. He was appointed by Donald Trump. So he's working for Donald Trump and he was command for the feds. So every single operation now coming through the Bureau or trickling down to their heads, okay, whoever their heads are, the director, whoever they are, the deputy director, etc., they're all now following a compromised command. So then they would have had to have the intel that their command was compromised and then be carrying out, it's like a counter operation. They would have to have their own version of command where they're doing the opposite of that command, okay? And carrying out their operations. I'm hearing like covert operations, okay? So they're going to have to be operating covertly within their own agency in order to bring in the correct intel and usher in some form of justice in order to have the right intel going out to the right people, especially if they're blocked in any way of getting that intel out. So I'm hearing the CIA. So Gina was up my ass, okay? I can confidently tell you that because I saw her looking at me through my own TV, and they did have that technology to do that around that time frame, which could have been like 2020 or so. So she definitely had intel on me. I don't know if she knew I was a presidential rank at that time, though, but she might have been in the know that I might have been causing some type of threat, because I think that's when they started really gearing up on their opposition forces against me. I was receiving a lot of intel in 2020 that was classified intel. So I think the confusion around who I am comes in, okay, around possibly divided teams. Secrecy, I'm hearing, because they have to, probably were trying to in some way protect me. But in the same aspect, I think it actually did, I think it worked against our country by keeping it in secrecy, because I was prepared at that point in time to be able to give information or intel to the right people. And if I was a certain rank and they held back that information, that would work against the country. Especially if I'm coming in at a presidential rank. I don't know why you wouldn't be like, here, pass the baton real quick, and then we can kind of get something going. Like, I don't really understand that. Because that's how I got compromised, was the secrecy of who I was. Because then in 2021, that's when they physically and biologically hacked me. And that's when I went into hell, literally, and almost died. So I don't know why they felt by keeping everything secret around me that would protect me in any way. And I really think it's one of the biggest failures of our country right now, because in hindsight, I was still commanding Joe Biden, which is insane. Because everything I was calling in, he was making announcements the same day. I mean, he was calling it in within 24 hours. He was calling in the same exact thing on a microphone in front of press teams. And so they didn't even tell me I was the president until the end of 2023. So if I had a presidential rank in 2021, and there's a divide on that, but I'm thinking I did. I'm thinking I was closer to the presidential rank than I realized at that time. Because there's no way that I would have been infiltrated in the way I was by Scientology if I wasn't that high of a rank. Because they came in guns a-blazing for me. I need to figure that out, because I'm like, when did Tom Cruise come after me? It's at 2022. And they were already in the process of framing me and setting me up. I was a threat. I was a threat to them in some way. They would not have gone after me in the way they did if they didn't know that I was like, I had to have been high enough up. They keep saying I was a private, but I don't think I would be that much of a threat if I was a private at that time. I don't know that I would be getting that much intel if I was a private. I wouldn't have been in the Oval Office right next to Joe Biden if I was just a private. So maybe that's something that still has to come to the light right now. But I had heavy CIA clients that I was interacting with as in-person clients via Zoom. I had military teams coming in through the Angel tier. I was definitely connected to some kind of a military base that was on camera. In 2021 is when I heard empty footsteps walking down the halls of the Pentagon. So it was 2021. So that must be when he declared war. That's when he unveiled his military map at his golf club. It says that he declared war on another country, which I'm assuming is Ukraine, but it had to have been more on the U.S. because why would I hear empty footsteps down the halls of the Pentagon? And that's when I saw something very important missing from one of our Navy ships. I don't know what this was. It's important though. It was ironclad. Whatever it was ironclad. I also saw a ritual that Donald Trump did with Vladimir Putin where he buried the American flag in some type of a satanic ritual. I see a flag in a casket right around the White House. He did something with a military flag. messages like around this right now. I think the idea is there's a secrecy around who I am, and my channel also went under attack in 2021. They started hitting my individual videos with nanobot weapons so that I was physically getting sick from the videos being on YouTube at that time. So when I would shut down my entire channel, I would feel like myself again. If I deleted a video, I would get relief from my head. I was physically under a weapon attack connected through my YouTube videos. And because of that, I deleted, I want to say probably evidence of a lot of stuff, like information that I knew, intel, and I believe that was all by design because I accidentally deleted all of my emails that year. So these were all mind control operations that were being done against me that I was ill prepared for. I didn't know what mind control was. I didn't understand the level of attack I was under. So I deleted things. I even sold my computer, which was probably all part of the plan as well, because I probably had files on there that I needed. So like, it's almost like they erased anything that I could use against them. It's almost like that whole chapter was like removed out of my life so that people almost would never know who I was. And that was also by design. And I'm like kicking myself for doing that because it's essentially, it's all part of an attack on my life. It's warfare. But I also can say the people who did it committed crimes against me because I know these were military operations and I know who was involved in the operations. So right now there's an issue because of this divide, I think, within our intel, and because of these attacks on our own soil internally. We have an issue with the current administration because of a pre-planned, preordained election. This means that a majority of the House seats and Senate seats are, I'm hearing, fraudulent. So that means that any bills that they have signed are null. Okay, so they're operating as if Congress is up and running. They're operating as if these executive orders are real executive orders. And the issue is that they're not. They're not. And they have been actively trying to infiltrate my military rank. They've been trying to, they've infiltrated my security teams. They have infiltrated anything that would be protecting me, liberating me, and they are still working around the clock to defraud, defame, and set me up. Okay, they're still ushering in this Nazi regime. They have had many, I guess, fraudulent court cases against me through the metaverse with their own judges and their own legal teams where I don't have legal representation. I never got a fair trial. They falsely imprisoned me. So they're acting as if this Nazi regime is in full-blown effect through their metaverse right now. And that essentially is training their operatives and their military and their cops and their feds how to usher this in reality, in real life. So they're using almost like me, again, as a beta lab rat to train everyone on how this is going to get carried out and that there would be no more fair trials. The only problem with me is that I'm a military rank that they're not allowed to go near right now. So they're literally testing the boundaries every single day with our own military. Like they are teetering and they are freaking every day. They are chipping at the block to freaking get my rank and take everything that is left of me and our country right now. And essentially, if they can do this to me, they can do it to anyone. So if I am this high of a rank and they can show and prove that they can do this right now, especially with their metaverse and the advancement of their time and space manipulation with Mark Zuckerberg and all of their AI and technologies in coordination with XI in China and North Korea and any other business partners or banks they have brought back on or brought into this, then that essentially is the war that we're in right now. That is what we're up against at this specific point in time, is we have to destroy their metaverse. And anything else that is bringing in any type of power or control. Now, I have, gotten intel that we are now out of regular legal protocol and have moved into war crime protocol, because we're in an active war against Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and Sergei Lavrov, or any of those. XI is we're in a war with. So even though it hasn't gone out to the media that this is what's happening, I have the rank to call in these commands. And I have been calling in these commands. It's just that they are breaking the chain of command. So they've broken the chain of command actively with General Milley, with their generals that were carrying out their one world order operations. So if we have moved into war crimes and we're operating in a completely different, charging system in terms of how you would be charged for crimes, you would be coming in out with war crimes. Okay, that would be war crimes. So they would be charged with war crimes, essentially, against the United States of America. And with those crimes, they are no longer recognized by this country. Okay. Many of them, they're supposed to already have been stripped of their passports, their licenses, any type of housing, bank accounts, anything that they have on U.S. soil or has been carried out on U.S. soil through any type of business deals, any type of contracts, those would all be seized. Anything that has been done through any type of U.S. agency, corporation, anything on U.S. soil would be taken from them, okay? Because they're no longer recognized by this country. And I had gotten messages that Donald Trump's money did dry up because he was not supposed to swear in. And he was running out of money. But then he got his crime bosses he brought in, and they did drug drop-offs. So he started paying people in drugs. So that's where a lot of his power came back in again, was through the drug monies. And that's coming in through the partying. So I've gotten a lot of messages around these baby rituals. Last night, I saw Kim K eating, I believe, one of my babies that was created through one of their Nazi labs, through stolen eggs that they got from me around 2000, I want to say it might have been 22 or 23. And they're eating this baby, or my baby, like it's freaking like a bag of chips. And that is the level of desperation these people are at right now. It's really getting gross. It's really disgusting. And they're doing it because that baby essentially protects them energetically, spiritually, from the wrath of me. And that's why they do the baby rituals, is because then they use it, they ingest it to use as protection against that person, which is completely insane. So I encourage all of you to please say prayers for all of the babies, because this warfare has been done to many people. And this has come in as Russian warfare. And it was done through infiltrating the secret societies. I've gotten specific ties to Gwyneth Paltrow's sex society in LA, where they signed some kind of a contract. I've seen a party in LA, and I've seen one in Manhattan, with celebrities. Those parties engaged in a form of monarch mind control through a military-grade sex operation. They were fully infiltrated through Russian dignitaries, oligarchs. These celebrities don't understand Russian warfare. They should have been protected by the feds, but the feds were in on it. No celebrity should have been allowed to engage in any type of encounters with Russian oligarchs. And they're bringing them in, like, trying to create, like, this, like, they're one of us. You know what I mean? They're not one of us. They're killers. They're trying to attack us. They're using you. Okay? So they're bringing these oligarchs into this celebrity elite nightlife scene, okay, at these sex parties that have this elite clout to them, whatever they are, these gold card parties or black card parties, and they're fully infiltrating them and compromising Americans at these events. So anyways, this was a gateway, okay, in to our country, a big one, because this is the money, okay? It's the celebrities. And then they're carrying out monarch mind control operations, which break into each of their soul contracts and gives them basically a gateway or a doorway to carry out spiritual warfare, which is deadly warfare. And I think this might be where a lot of the reptilian warfare comes in, because I know that I was getting specific messages around 2022 that Vladimir Putin was working with astrophysicists, okay, on this type of warfare to go after twin flames, to block sacred unions, divine unions. He was working with warlocks. And they were actively breaking into our codes, okay, our codes. So I'm going to read on something else that I keep getting messages on. I'm going to post a separate video about that, about a secret society in the 80s. I'm getting some kind of messages around a ritual that happened that affected a lot of us, starseeds. And I feel like is a huge component as to why we are almost karmically, I want to say, like, stuck being tied to these people who are not of the light. So I'm going to do a reading on that in a separate video. Thanks so much for all of your love, likes, shares. Thank you for subscribing below. Thank you for your patronage, donations. I greatly appreciate it. As I'm saying, there's a Penske truck. I was told I was a Penske deal with the Merchant Marines. And that's how they sold me to different dictators around the world. What they did to me is so disgusting, because if you knew I was a presidential rank, then you're going to go ahead and traffic me and dissect me. It's just disgusting. Well, I will leave you guys there. Thanks again for all of your support, and I will talk to you soon.